Alex Miller sank into the worn leather of his living room chair, letting out a long, exhausted sigh. The hum of the city outside his apartment window was a constant reminder of the world moving on without him. It had been one of those weeks where deadlines seemed endless, emails multiplied like weeds, and the weight of solitude pressed heavier than ever. Living alone in his small New York apartment had its perks, but tonight, the quiet felt like a tangible ache. Scrolling through his phone, Alex hesitated on the massage app he had downloaded weeks ago. He had read about Daniel, a local masseur, through a string of glowing reviews. The descriptions weren't just about skill, they hinted at a presence, a warmth that clients found comforting. Something about the way Daniel's profile photo captured his subtle smile and attentive eyes made Alex's chest tighten. It wasn't just curiosity that drew him to make the call, it was a mixture of longing, loneliness, and a desire to feel someone's hands easing the tension he carried every day. With a flick of his thumb, Alex tapped the "Book Now" button. The phone rang twice before Daniel's calm, smooth voice answered. "Hi, this is Daniel. How can I help you today?" Alex swallowed, trying to mask the sudden nervousness in his throat. Hi, I'd like to schedule a massage, for tonight, if possible." His voice was steady, though his heart raced. Daniel chuckled lightly, a sound that seemed almost magnetic through the phone line. "I have an opening in 2 hours. Does that work?" "Perfect," Alex replied, surprised at how quickly he had committed. They exchanged a few details, address, preferred style, and duration, and hung up. The anticipation settled over Alex like a warm weight. When Daniel arrived, there was an immediate, quiet acknowledgement of professionalism mixed with something unspoken. He was taller than Alex expected, with broad shoulders that filled the doorway and a presence that was both calming and subtly magnetic. He carried a small bag of supplies, but it was the careful attention to his posture, the way he spoke Alex's name, that left an impression deeper than words. "Make yourself comfortable," Daniel said, voice low and even, as he gestured toward the massage table. Alex followed, trying not to notice how Daniel's eyes lingered just slightly longer than necessary on him. As the session began, the quiet room was filled with the soft sound of a nearby heater and the faint scent of lavender from Daniel's oils. Alex focused on the sensations, the firm, precise pressure of Daniel's hands on his shoulders, the gradual loosening of tension in his back. Every movement was methodical, yet there was an intimacy in the way Daniel adjusted his hands, a careful attentiveness that made Alex's pulse quicken. Alex found himself aware of every small detail, the heat of the room against his skin, the faint scent of Daniel's cologne, the rhythm of his breathing. He tried to remind himself this was a professional session, nothing more, but the tension in his chest wasn't entirely muscular. There was something in Daniel's presence that made him feel both seen and exposed, a mix of comfort and unease he hadn't anticipated. At one point, Daniel's hand lingered a fraction longer over a sore spot on Alex's shoulder. Alex tensed, then relaxed, caught between wanting to protest and wanting the touch to last. The moment passed as quickly as it had arrived, leaving Alex with a fluttering awareness that this massage was unlike any he had experienced before. By the time Daniel packed up to leave, Alex was left with more than physical relief. There was a curiosity, a subtle pull that made him want to see Daniel again, though he couldn't yet name the feeling. He walked Daniel to the door, exchanging polite words, but inside, his mind was a whirl of anticipation and unanswered questions. As Daniel disappeared down the hallway, Alex leaned against the doorframe, exhaling slowly. The apartment felt emptier, yet charged in a way that was hard to describe. He couldn't shake the sense that tonight was just the beginning of something unexpected. Alex couldn't shake the memory of Daniel's hands. Even hours after the session, the sensation lingered, a subtle ache of anticipation he hadn't felt in years. He found himself replaying every detail, the way Daniel had adjusted the tension in his shoulders, the quiet attentiveness in his gaze, the almost imperceptible warmth of his presence. Sitting on the edge of his bed, Alex scrolled through his phone almost absent-mindedly, but the impulse to reach out was already forming. Then, just as he set the phone down, it rang. The name, Daniel, flashed on the screen. Alex's pulse jumped. "Hey," he answered, trying to keep his voice casual, though it trembled slightly. "Hey, Alex," Daniel said smoothly, his tone immediately putting Alex at ease. "I was just thinking about our session yesterday. How are you feeling?" Alex paused, surprised by the personal attention. "Honestly, better than I expected. You really know what you're doing," he admitted, his voice softening. There was a brief chuckle from Daniel, low and warm. I'm glad. I have to admit, you weren't exactly easy to forget either. The words sent a shiver through Alex, though he tried to mask it with a laugh. The conversation unfolded naturally, a mix of casual talk and subtle flirtation. Daniel asked about Alex's week, about work stress, and shared little anecdotes from his own life. There was something effortless about the way he spoke, a rhythm that made Alex feel both comfortable and strangely exposed. He realized with a pang that he wanted this, wanted Daniel's attention, wanted the connection that went beyond professionalism. After a pause, Daniel's voice dropped just slightly. You know, if you want, I could come by again. Maybe another session tonight. I think there's still some tension left to work out. Alex's chest tightened. He hesitated, aware of the internal tug of war. On one hand, he was drawn to Daniel, curious and intrigued by the subtle attraction that had already taken root. On the other, a whisper of caution lingered. This was crossing a line, something he wasn't supposed to do. Still, the loneliness and the desire to feel that touch again outweighed the hesitation. Yeah, I think I'd like that, he said finally, almost without thinking. By the time Daniel arrived that evening, the apartment seemed charged with a new energy. The air felt warmer, the space smaller, as if his very anticipation had reshaped it. Daniel stepped in carrying his bag, but there was no need for formalities this time. The casual familiarity in his tone, the subtle way he made eye contact, made Alex's heart race in a way he hadn't anticipated. Ready? Daniel asked, his voice low, smooth, almost teasing. Alex nodded, though he felt unsteady. He climbed onto the massage table, aware of Daniel's proximity in a way that was almost dizzying. This time, the massage felt different, more intentional, more intimate. Daniel's hands traced along the lines of tension, lingering just a moment too long on certain spots, and Alex couldn't help the way his breath caught. Every touch seemed to carry a dual meaning, professional and something more elusive, something forbidden. As Daniel worked, Alex's mind wandered. He knew the ethical boundaries, knew that this wasn't supposed to be about attraction, yet he found himself anticipating the moments when their hands would brush, when their eyes would meet. He was acutely aware of Daniel's presence, and yet, he felt a strange sense of trust, a feeling that Daniel recognized the tension in him and didn't rush, didn't push, but somehow deepened it. A subtle glance, a brief brush of fingers, a shared smile that lingered just a heartbeat too long, each moment was like a spark igniting in Alex's chest. He wasn't sure where this was heading, but the pull was undeniable. He felt caught between desire and restraint, curiosity and guilt, yet he didn't want to resist. When the session ended, Daniel packed up slowly, giving Alex time to adjust to the sudden absence of his presence. I'll text you tomorrow, Daniel said, slipping on his shoes and giving Alex a fleeting, knowing glance. Alex watched him leave, the door clicking softly behind him. The apartment felt empty again, yet charged in a way that left his chest tight and his mind restless. He knew this was no longer just about a massage, it was about a connection, temptation, and choices he wasn't ready to make. And deep down, he couldn't wait to see what would happen next. Alex sat on the edge of his bed, staring at his phone. The screen was dark, but his mind was alive with the memory of Daniel's visit just hours earlier. Every detail, the warmth of his hands, the subtle closeness, the way his voice seemed to settle into a rhythm that matched Alex's own, kept replaying in his thoughts. He knew this was no longer just a professional massage, it was something more, something that teased at boundaries he wasn't sure he was ready to cross. The text arrived just as he had expected. Can I come by tonight? Alex's thumb hovered over the reply button. 1,000 conflicting thoughts battled in his mind, desire, curiosity, guilt, and fear. But the pull was undeniable. He typed back quickly, almost automatically, yes. When Daniel arrived, there was an unspoken familiarity between them. No introductions were needed. The apartment felt warmer, the space somehow closer, as if anticipation had drawn them together even before a word was spoken. Daniel set his bag down quietly and glanced at Alex with a look that held both amusement and understanding. Ready? Daniel asked, the subtle inflection in his voice sending a shiver through Alex. Alex nodded, unable to speak. He climbed onto the massage table, heart racing in ways he hadn't anticipated. This session felt different from the last. It was more than muscle tension being eased. It was an intimate exchange, a subtle dance of touch and awareness. Daniel's hands moved with practiced precision, but there was a lingering quality to his movements, a closeness that made Alex acutely aware of every brush of skin and every shift in position. As the massage progressed, Alex's mind drifted into a haze of sensation and emotion. He felt a warmth spreading through him, a mixture of relief, anticipation, and longing. The professional boundaries that had existed in the first session seemed to blur, replaced by a delicate tension neither of them acknowledged aloud but both recognized. Each glance, each small touch, carried weight beyond its physical presence. For the first time, Alex allowed himself to relax completely, not just physically but emotionally. He leaned into the sensation of being seen and understood, of having someone's attention so focused on him. It was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. Daniel's subtle smiles and the quiet attentiveness in his movements made Alex's chest tighten in ways he had not expected. A moment arrived when Daniel's hand lingered slightly longer on Alex's shoulder than necessary. Alex didn't move away. Instead, he felt a rush of something deep and undefinable, a mixture of thrill and guilt. He realized that he had wanted this, wanted Daniel's presence, wanted the intimacy, even if it was fleeting and ambiguous. The realization made his heart race, but it also made him acutely aware of the choices he was making. By the time Daniel packed up, the apartment felt different, charged and quiet at the same time. He paused at the door, giving Alex a fleeting glance that lingered just long enough to communicate understanding and unspoken connection. "I'll see you soon," Daniel said softly. Alex nodded, unable to speak immediately. When the door clicked shut, he sank onto the couch, trying to process the whirlwind of sensations and emotions. The apartment was silent again, but the tension remained, a palpable reminder that something had shifted. He knew he had crossed an invisible line, yet he couldn't deny the exhilaration of it. Sitting alone, Alex felt a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. He understood that this connection with Daniel was dangerous in the sense of emotional vulnerability, yet it was also intoxicating in a way he had never experienced. The evening had been about more than touch. It had been about recognition, desire, and the complex mix of thrill and guilt that came with acting on impulse. As he stared at his phone, Alex's thumb hovered over the screen again. Another text from Daniel could arrive at any moment, and he felt a rush of nervous excitement at the thought. He didn't know where this would lead, only that it had already changed something inside him. Tonight had been an awakening, a beginning of something undefined yet irresistible. And deep down, he knew he couldn't wait to see what happened next.